Okay, you're in Linda's kitchen, and I'm getting ready this morning to make my meatballs. I've lined up all my ingredients, and I'm going to go through it and show you what I do. It's not involved, it's not very hard. It's just a matter of being organized, getting good ingredients, and making your meatballs. Now, first of all, I want to show you the food processor that I use. And the ingredients that I'm going to show you are in order that I put it into the food processor. Okay, let me tell you a little bit about the meat that I have here. This was the cuttings from the tenderloin from Christmas. I bought a whole tenderloin, and the butcher took some of the meat that he had to cut off for the roast, to make the roast. So it's a nice amount. I think it's about 2 pounds. The meat looks nice and fresh. A little tidbit, I never buy ground meat. I always have my meat ground. I buy either a roast, London broils, stew meat, and I ask the butcher to grind them. And most of them don't have a problem with that. Now, my ingredients are in order that I put them into, my food processor, and I have to start with my breadcrumbs. I use white bread, and I use a considerable amount, and I make my crumbs, and because the food processor has to be dry, I have to start with my bread. Then I put my eggs and my parsley. Now, the eggs and parsley, I think I put a lot of parsley, as you can see. It's Italian parsley. It's washed. I've already done it. I've taken off as much of the stems as I can. And the eggs, I figure two eggs to a pound. Because if you put too many eggs, they get too soft and they might break up in your gravy. And if you don't put enough, well, so figure 2 eggs to a pound of meat. And the parsley. The parsley, I just put as much as I can. This is probably almost, or at least a good 2 cups packed. Now, today, okay, so I'll put the eggs and the parsley into the food processor after I do the bread. Now, my cheeses, I wasn't able to get my locatelli cheese, but I did get a Romana. That's a sheep. I was looking at it when I was buying it. It is a sheep's milk, which I like. But I do love the locatelli, but I just couldn't find it. He was out of it. And hopefully they'll come out okay. My next ingredients are my garlic, my salt. Now here are the breadcrumbs. I put them into the meat. Now I'm going to do the parsley and eggs. Okay, so here are the eggs that I've cracked, 4 eggs. I always crack them in a separate bowl. I'm putting them into the food processor. Okay, the 4 eggs. Now I'm going to take the parsley, and that's going to go in. Looks like a lot, but parsley's a great herb. Nice and fresh. Okay, so now here is the parsley and eggs. I'm pouring it into the meat mixture, and I'm going to have to shut this camera off because I'm going to take my spatula and make sure I get every bit of that mixture. Okay, I'll be out my food processor to get it ready for my tomatoes, which I didn't talk about, and I will talk about them in a moment. Here's the parsley and the meat and the breadcrumbs in the bowl, getting ready to be mixed. And I'm going to be adding the cheese, garlic powder, salt, and pepper. Now look, wasn't that easy? Look at the ingredients that I'm putting in here. All nice, fresh ingredients, fresh meat, fresh bread. My meatballs are terrific. And the breadcrumbs, I must have put in at least 8 slices of American bread. Well, white bread. We call it American bread. And don't be afraid of that. That makes the meatballs tender. It makes them delicious. Okay, I'm just going to come over here. I'm going to scan the camera over here and let you look at the tomatoes that I use. Again, there's the cheese, the salt, the garlic powder, the pepper. Now, I only use the Muir Glen. I was using a lot of different kinds of tomatoes. However, I like these the best. They're a little more expensive. I don't know if you can see that I've added the cheese. I want to show you that I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of the garlic powder. Again, maybe some of you are saying, well, you know, why isn't she using fresh garlic? Again, I feel like sometimes the fresh garlic gets bitter. You can't put fresh garlic in. For me, it hasn't worked. I mean, maybe some of you others have a better trick, but I've, you know, made it very small, and I just don't get, I just felt that the meatballs were had just a little bitter taste. I'm going to put 2 teaspoons of the salt, and I'm going to put my pepper in. And then I'm going to mix up this mixture. Doesn't it look good already? Oh, geez, terrific. I'm going to mix up this. Okay, here the meat is being mixed. Oh, geez, a piece went flying. Okay, so I'm going to continue to mix these up. I'm processing my tomatoes. You know, I said earlier. Okay, so I've cleaned up my kitchen. I'm getting ready to fry the meatballs. The tomato sauce is starting to simmer. That was 4 cans of the Muir Glen organic tomatoes. I put a little bit of oil into my pan. I only use canola oil to fry in. Doesn't matter what kind, Wesson, Crisco, whatever, store-bought. I'm back because I want to show you one more thing on how I do my meatballs. I scoop them up with this little ice cream scoop, and that's when then I form the balls. So they're more uniform. I'm figuring out of this amount of meat that I have, already I have 14 frying. I did take one over here, which is getting ready for me to taste. I broke it up and I fried it up. So far they taste and smell. I did take a little taste of it and it was delicious. Okay, so my meatballs are frying. This is what I use to make my balls. Not to make the balls, just to make a proper size so that they're all uniform. I don't make great big ones because that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a nice size, and these are perfect. When I first put them in, okay, so as you can see, the meatballs are frying. They're browning nicely. I figure, as I said earlier, there's 14 in the pan now. I still have this much meat to fry. And I want to talk a little bit about my tomato sauce. So, as you could see, I processed 4 cans of the Muir Glen organic tomatoes. Not crushed, organic tomatoes. Nothing crushed or anything like that. I use whole tomatoes, either they're plum or regular tomatoes. But if you notice something, and I just want to bring this to your attention, that's it. That's the ingredients for my tomatoes, my gravy. There's no extra ingredients. If I had some fresh basil, I probably would throw it in. However, sometimes I don't even think you get a great taste with the basil. But that's it. Now this is going to cook. This is going to simmer, and once I start putting the meatballs in, the meatballs are going to go right in. So once I start putting the meatballs in, it's probably going to simmer for about a good 2 hours. So, no. Okay, so everything's done. I have some fried meatballs here. My husband likes them fried, so I took some out of the pan before I put them into the gravy. And it's interesting, my dad liked fried meatballs also. History repeats itself, I guess. And here's the gravy. Now, it looks delicious. It smells delicious, and of course I've tasted it. I'm going to cover it and let it continue to simmer. I think I got about 38 meatballs out of that meat, and I estimated it to be about 2 pounds. I'm not going to do anything with this today. I'm going to let it cool and freeze some of it. Usually give some to my children, and my grandchildren love the meatballs, and it's one thing we know that they'll eat. So that's it. Again, I'm emphasizing that there is nothing more in these tomatoes but the meatballs. So that's what flavors the sauce. Yeah, it's getting thick already on the bottom. There's no puree, there's no paste, just